Hey guys, so I have a different setup this time because I'm home by myself for a little bit. It's awesome. It's really nice to have some time to yourself every now and then and just read a book or just veg out and or do a spa, have a spa experience. I know what I'm saying. Okay. Anyways, I wanted to read a little bit more of the book, or at least want to finish um, the rest of chapter 2 from the mystery book. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? In his second book, Schwab seemed to believe he had to simplify his original message so that at the end of each chapter, he provided a simple 1 to 2 page summary. The first question he seeks to answer is to define the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Here is how Schwab describes it in his first chapter, Framing the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And now I will try to attempt to speak like Schwab. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is a way of describing a set of ongoing and impending transformations in the systems that surround us, and which most of us take for granted every day. While it may not feel momentous to those of us experiencing a series of small but significant adjustments to life on a daily basis, it is not a minor change. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is a new chapter in human development, on par with the first, second, and third industrial revolutions, and once again driven by the increasing availability and interaction of a set of extraordinary technologies. Confused? Yeah, I'm a little confused. Schwab is telling you that the public doesn't see these momentous changes. Sure, the people notice some minor changes, but things are genuinely moving in a big way, according to Schwab. Once again, Schwab and his Davos group are just so much better at figuring out what's happening in your life than you. And Schwab doesn't want you depending on yourself to figure out these changes, or any of the local or national institutions you've relied on for years. In a rhetorical sleight of hand, that would have done the communists proud as they established their Young Pioneer program to indoctrinate the children. Schwab reveals in his plan, in a section titled A New Leadership Mindset. So going back to parts of Schwab's book. These 3 challenges, distributing benefits, managing externalities, and ensuring a human-centered future, cannot be easily solved top-down through regulation or well-meaning government initiatives. Nor is it at all likely that the current constellation of international and national institutions, market structures, organized and spontaneous social movements, and incentives for individuals will lead to powerful new technologies being widely available, completely free from harm and fully focused on empowering the people that use them. Back to analysis. This should strike everybody as a shot across the bow of any person who believes in a civil and peaceful society. Schwab has no interest in typical government programs. He doesn't believe in any currently existing international or national institutions. Neither does he believe in any spontaneous social movements or individuals who rise up with good ideas, or any of the typical incentive programs that might bring about positive change. Schwab and his Davos gang are interested in wiping out everyone of the previously existing social structures that have guided the development of countries and nations, and basically restructuring it himself, along with whoever else has the most power, right? It's a buffet. It's definitely a buffet, for sure. I've always believed that if somebody confesses something disturbing about themselves, such as, I've never been able to be faithful, you should pay attention. If you choose to date that person, then find your heart broken when they cheat on you. The blame should fall on you. Schwab makes it clear he intends to wipe away the power of all our institutions and structures. In the chapter summary, Schwab lays it out again, going back to the book. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is a new chapter in human development, driven by the increasing availability and interaction of a set of extraordinary technologies, building on 3 previous technological revolutions. This revolution is only in its early stages, which provides humankind with the opportunity and responsibility to shape not just the design of new technologies, but also more agile forms of governance and positive values that will fundamentally change how we live, work, and relate to each other. So back to analysis. What are these more agile forms of governance? A summary execution by firing squad without the benefit of a trial? And there really isn't much discussion of these positive values, of what these positive values, hold on. A summary execution by firing squad without the benefit of a trial. So yeah, more agile forms of governance basing off of who has the most power and say, and they get to manipulate how they want to govern things, finding loopholes, right? Loopholes, areas to kind of get by without sticking to a moral structure that aims to keep things fair for even the little guys like us. In some way, shape, or form. Life isn't fair regardless. However, the nice thing about living in the United States, we have a constitution, right? We have that for a reason. So it seems nowadays, or so it seems, I don't know, I guess I can't really say. Well, I actually can say it, just I feel it, and I think majority of us feel it too, that have been witnessing a lot of things that have been happening, going down. It's starting to lose its structure. Of course, this has been happening over decades and decades. It's like a slow kill, right? Or like the Chinese would say, death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. All right. It's like Schwab's plan involves pledging your trust to the Davos Group, lest you suffer the punishments made possible by their more agile forms of governance. After all, how are they going to get you to accept these fundamental changes to how we live, work, and relate to each other? What will be done to those who object to that? Schwab is curiously silent on such subjects. For a long portion of his second book, Schwab spends a great deal of time talking about the interconnectedness of technology, as if we didn't realize that. The technologies of the Fourth Industrial Revolution are connected to one another in that they all require and build on the digital capabilities and networks created by the Third Industrial Revolution, just as those technologies required and built on the electricity networks of the Second Industrial Revolution. That's almost as self-evident as saying before they could be your parents, your grandparents needed to have children. It is at such banalities that Schwab excels. In the next chapter, Schwab discusses the politics of technologies and what he calls the mistaken twin beliefs that technology drives history and that technology is value neutral. In fact, he labels both beliefs extremely dangerous. If you are looking for at least one area of life where politics didn't intrude, Schwab will give you no sanctuary. It's Schwab's belief that when any technology is created, it contains the residue of values, goals, and compromises. And the more powerful the technology, the more important it becomes to appreciate what these are. Perhaps he's right. Maybe if people understood that Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook as a way for his fellow Harvard males to rate the attractiveness of the Harvard females, we'd all resign from the platform. Zuckerberg would lose all of his money and he would end up as a homeless person sleeping on the streets of San Francisco. I understand it's a long shot, but a person can dream. That's a long shot for sure. But yeah, I get what he's saying. One must be wary of how Schwab and his Davos group use language. I think one of the most dangerous words that should concern you is stakeholder. This is how Schwab ends the chapter titled Empowering All Stakeholders. So now we go back to the book. Creating a prosperous, inclusive, and equitable fourth industrial revolution for society and citizens means being conscious of the choices we make in technological systems, which will inevitably impact economic, environmental, and social systems. This means having the courage to confront existing economic and political paradigms and reshaping them to empower individuals regardless of ethnicity, age, gender, or background, so he says. Back to analysis. Our country was founded on the idea of individual rights. The government is supposed to protect those rights. That's called freedom. But if Schwab and company come up with a way to short-circuit those rights, that would be a powerful tool. This is the definition of stakeholder from Investopedia. A stakeholder is a party that has an interest in a company and can either affect or be affected by the business. The primary stakeholders in a typical corporation are its investors, employees, customers, and suppliers. However, with the increasing attention on corporate social responsibility, the concept has been extended to include communities, governments, and trade associations. Whenever you hear the word stakeholder, you should think of it as a weapon that Schwab and company could use to deprive a person of their rights. Section 2 of Schwab's second book is titled Technologies, Opportunities, and Disruption, and contains a great deal of unrelated material such as this gem. The rising importance and applicability of machine learning has created the demand for new types of customized computing architectures. Google, one of the world's largest purchasers of chips, designed large numbers of tensor processing units, application-specific integrated circuits designed for deep learning algorithms. Analysis. One might be tempted to discount the importance of such a bland paragraph, except for how it slips in the idea of deep learning algorithms. Remember all those science fiction machines you saw as a kid where the robot went crazy killing people? And the climax of the film was when the hero discovered it wasn't the robot at all that was at fault, but the psychologically deranged developer. Yeah, this is one of those kinds of problems. Except that instead of the robot going on a killing spree, the algorithm will simply declare your well-reasoned policy disagreement to be hate speech, or even worse, racist. Yes, the problem is not the machine, it's the person who programmed it, which is why the radical leftists of Silicon Valley are so distrusted by the rest of America. The next section is titled The Internet of Things, and comes to the shocking conclusion that much of our world is interconnected. Another section, Cyber Risks, comes to the inspired realization that there are cyber risks involved in technology, and we should spend money to defend against these risks. Final chapters are artificial intelligence, biotechnologies, drones, advanced materials, and virtual reality are similarly unenlightening. It's only when we get to the conclusion of Schwab's second book that he starts to reveal how he and his Davos group are going to restructure society. Don't worry, he tells you. We won't just have to have governments or corporations coming after you. There will be other sources of pressure. So going back to the book, clips or excerpts from the book. Governance, however, is not just government. The formal structures we have for creating laws and regulations. Governance includes the development and use of standards, the emergence of social norms that can constrain or endorse use, private incentive schemes, certification, and oversight by professional bodies, industry agreements, and the policies that organizations apply voluntarily or by contract in their relationship with competitors, suppliers, partners, and customers. Now back to analysis. In this world that Schwab wants to create, you'll have to worry about more than just the government. In truth, it doesn't seem as if Schwab has much use for government, unless it does exactly what he wants. Instead, Schwab is counting on the big corporations to function as de facto governments, possibly through their terms of service. Does it make sense how the big tech companies were able to censor certain viewpoints during certain elections? How did they do this when this violated the spirit of our First Amendment? How did these tech leaders justify it to their conscience? Possibly because they've been brainwashed by Klaus Schwab at all those Davos conferences, maybe, possibly. Either way, no matter where it happens or who it happens to, what side it happens to, it is not good. It's like very hypocritical if you allow for one thing to happen to something that you dislike, even if you disagree with it. But you don't realize that by allowing it to happen to that side or one side, it makes it possible to happen to the other, to your side, whichever side, whoever side. If we look at this from an outsider point of view, from a detached point of view, just looking at the ground root, right, the very bottom line of it, it would be hypocritical. It would be self-sabotage in the end. It really is. That's why, I mean, that's kind of life though, right? It's like we're constantly, if we have the abilities to try and stay aware as much as we can about our own selves and view things and reflect on our actions and things that we do, in all fairness, you know, it's like, it'd be a better world, of course. But that's not how life is. That's not, we are all imperfect human beings. And we're never at that perfect balance. But it's about learning to be more aware of those things. Anyways, I just went on a rant. And did you notice how Schwab pushes the emergence of social norms? Probably by the use of his beloved conversations, which are nothing more than scripts developed by Schwab's chosen actors, as if we were watching a Broadway play. But with Schwab's scripts, the fiction becomes reality. If you're wondering how these new standards are going to be developed, don't worry. They'll be developed by the experts. So going back to a section of Schwab's book, it says, communities of professionals are essential for establishing the right standards, especially standards that reflect a consensus of values and stakeholder priorities. The IEEE, for example, draws on 423,000 members to build consensus among organizations and deliver safety, reliability, and interoperability in a range of electrical and digital systems. Their guidelines for AI show that they are thinking through the broad impact of technologies and not just focusing on the technical requirements or compliance. Now back to analysis. It is becoming clear there's never going to be an actual vote. Instead, there's going to be a managed discussion with a predetermined outcome amenable to that of Schwab and his Davos friends, or in general, just people who have the most power. Yeah, so in his advice for governments, Schwab tells governments that they must adopt agile governance, which he defines as, and this is, I guess, like another excerpt from it, an essential strategy to adapt how policies are generated, deliberated, enacted, and enforced to create better governance outcomes in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, inspired by the Agile Manifesto and a report by the World Economic Forum Global Agenda Council on the Future of Software and Society. The concept of agile governance seeks to match the nimbleness, fluidity, flexibility, and adaptiveness of the technologies themselves and the private sector actors adopting them. Back to analysis. Just in case you wonder what all that means, it means that Schwab wants to act with all of the ethics of our largest corporations who have polluted our air and water, and pharmaceutical companies who clamor for complete financial immunity, for medicines, vaccines, things that either keep you hooked on for life or that make you become ill even more instead of helping you get better. Not all, but a lot. And the big tech who never seem to suffer for violating American values of free speech and free competition. Schwab goes on to detail what some of these models might look like when he writes, encouraging collaborations between governments and businesses to create developatory sandboxes and experimental test beds. He wrote this in his book. To develop regulations using iterative, cross-sectoral, and flexible approaches as discussed by Jeff Mulgan. Promoting the development of ecosystems of private regulators competing in markets to deliver governance in line with overarching social goals as proposed by Gillian Hadfield in Rules for a Flat World. These proposals are a blueprint for disaster. If liberals of the 1970s were terrified of the power of the intelligence agencies, the defense industry, the big business, those concerns were nothing compared to the corporate-based power world envisioned by Schwab that's happening today. I'm not sure any filmmaker or writer has adequately captured the dystopian elements of this planned future. The closest comparison I can make is to the Alien movies. The Alien movies? Okay, in which a corporation partners with the government to bring a monster back to Earth to study its unique biology. This is a genuinely lawless future in which the only justice meted out is that given by powerful corporations. Let's understand the magic show with which Schwab hopes to dazzle the public. He goes into minute and exquisite detail about all the advances in technology and summarizes many of the questions raised by these new technologies. At the same time, we're supposed to be dazzled by these advances. He tells us that there are dark undercurrents, which these technologies have not addressed. Next, Schwab wants us to believe his rich friends had nothing to do with it, nothing to do with the bad parts of our development. And in any case, there will be disruptions and new ways of doing things that will forever erase all of these problems. However, to get to that bright future, we're going to have to make some changes, take off the guardrails, so to speak, loosen up some of the laws. But don't worry, you'll get some private regulators out there. Discipline will be meted out by trade and professional organizations that won't let you pursue a living if you don't do what they want. And if at the end you still stand up and complain, well, he'll just get big tech to silence you. Where did all these ideas come from? We will investigate that in our next chapter. All right, so that means we are on chapter 3. That was quite a long chapter, I would say. Anywho, I'm just going to end it there for now, and then we can pick up next time. So I'm just going to chill out, relax. I'm going to go up north this weekend. Yes, it is needed. It is very much needed. And I want to get out of this hellhole. It's freaking hot as hell over here, okay? Literally driving me insane. Like, it has been, like, I wish I could kick the sun's ass, you know? I really do. Kick the shit out of him. Make him cry. At least when I make him cry, fucking give me some rain, damn it. Anyway, I'm not gonna rant on about that anymore. So Bill Gates, we can definitely use you now to block out the sun. Never. All right, bye guys.